Hello, hello, and welcome to another moment with Vivacious. I am really excited tonight. I'm excited because our guest is, like we have to spend so much money trying to stay young, right? But she's gonna teach us to be healthy and young, and more than survive, but to live and to live good. You see some people. I saw a lady today, 80 years old, exercising with muscles. And I was just thinking to myself, I have to get back there. I've been so busy, but I'm going to put myself back on the important list, okay? And that's what we're going to do. So we'll be right back with Sam. Welcome to A Moment with Vivacious, a freedom ride where we the people gather to build ourselves, our family, our community, and our nation. For the sound of America for Progress has reached critical mass. Understanding that we must put aside our differences to focus on the greater good. This is a place of collaboration to rebuild and restore our nation. Welcome to A Moment with Vivacious. Hi, hi, hi. And tonight I'm all excited about being here. Thanks, Nola, for joining in tonight. She tells everybody good night. But I'm excited. I'm all excited about tonight. I just heard this is the growing season. So we're going to get in this. Even if I just do two things, I have two pots. So even if I just do two things, I'm going to grow something. And look, if we strategize, we win, right? So I would like to introduce to you tonight, Sam. Hi,
Hello.
Sam.
Hi, how are you?
And look, y'all, Sam is also, and be sure, Anola said, be sure to like the videos because we get a lot of viewers, but you guys don't like. Please press like. And if you happen to have not subscribed, subscribe to the channel. But look, Sam's going to help get me in shape and get me all healthy. That's what she's here for. But I'm a big deal now because so many people are afraid we don't know what's going to happen. And guess what? Nothing may happen and everything may happen. But we won't be deprived of fresh food and healthy food because Sam have all the answers. I promise y'all. Because I'm, yeah, girl, you know I be listening. I be in there. Like, what are we gonna do? What do we have to do? So, Sam, introduce us and tell us a little bit about what you do. It's very exciting.
Well, my name is Sam. I am a hobby homesteader and a health enthusiast. I am all about the importance of the mind, health, your physical, mental, and spiritual health all being together because that's all part of your health and wellness. But I really thoroughly found a passion in homesteading, which really is about being able to have that ability to grow your food and the ultimate goal is to grow your own food and feed yourself from your own food and possibly be able to give back to your community or share and barter and grow that village, have that natural source of food and sustenance and be able to have that community as well. There's a whole almost community in itself within the homesteader environment. But yeah, I started about 7 years ago with my kids being younger, and I wanted a space for them to be able to go roam free and be children and run and play in the woods and have fun. And the passion grew from there, starting out with chickens and a tiny garden.
Well, I tell you, you are a natural vivaciouser because this is how we talk. This is where we want to go. And with last week we were just talking about. So how will we? First of all, tell us a little bit more about homesteading, and then tell us about how will we get started.
Homesteading really is at its core growing your own food, growing and also having potentially your own livestock depending on your dietary needs or your preferences. Some people may be vegan and therefore they're only simply growing their own food. But if you have more of an omnivorous diet that includes having livestock, fishing, if you can have the possibilities of having a pond, growing your own chickens with your livestock, whatever it may be that you prefer to eat. I do thoroughly enjoy raising poultry, other types of fowl. Hopefully, in the future, I'll be able to raise as well. But right now, I have fish and chickens and a garden.
Oh
Um,
wow, that's
and
beautiful. So
you
you
also,
have a pond with the fish?
yes, yes. At this time, I have brim and catfish, but we are slowly but surely in the process of growing that diversity of the fish pond. It's about an acre and a half. So we're going to be able to grow some more of that diversity in the fish pond and have maybe some bass and different things in that ecosystem to build a full sustaining ecosystem. It's all about self-sustenance. So if we can get it to sustain naturally on its own and grow and have its own ecosystem, then we'll be able to feed ourselves from the pond, from the fish from the pond, as well as the land. So yeah, it's about self-sustenance and feeding and yourself in the most natural and healthy way possible.
That is so awesome. And I'm gonna tell you why they had this place that sold fish, blackened fish, and I saw somebody else eating it. And I said, "Ooh, I want some of that." So I bought it. And then before I can eat it, the next ship had come in. So I said, "Ooh, girl, I got this fish plate," and I opened it up, and she said, "That's not real fish." And I thought, "Oh my God." Like I wanted it really badly, but once she said it wasn't real fish. So, what are some of the things that we're eating? I don't want to go far because I want to talk about building us and staying healthy. I want to talk about how a healthy mind, how eating healthy and taking care of ourselves, nourish our mind and our thoughts. So, I don't want to go too far from that, but what do you mean when you say? Because sometimes if you buy like the catfish nuggets, even in the it like melt in your mouth. Like this is not right.
Well, I mean that comes from fish farming rather than growing it naturally and allow it to grow on its own. Different things have its own process of growth. So when things are farmed in a way that's more unnatural than its own natural process of growth, that's usually what people mean by that's not real fish or that's not real chicken. Or there's extra preservatives or extra fillers added in. So you have cornmeal and different flours added in to just kind of fill in the spaces to make it look more or feel more like meat or resemble more meat when it's not actually just that pure meat itself. Or you'll have a lot of byproducts from the animal in there versus just that pure lean protein that you would have and provide yourself when you're making your own food at home.
Oh wow. And can I talk about one more thing before we move on from this? Sometimes the chicken wings are so big. I like chicken gizzards. I eat organs. So I love chicken gizzards. But so I
I do too.
bought some. But they were so big I cooked them thinking, oh, I'll just eat them this time. But then I thought, no, I can't eat that. Is this turkey gizzards? What is going on? So when we see these, and that I'm wanting to say, I'm not buying no strips. I want to know I'm eating real chicken. But then sometimes those pieces are like, what? It's not
Huge.
right. Yes, yes. Sigrid said, good
So
evening, everyone. I'm
a lot
sorry.
of that, no, you're good. You're good. I get excited, so I'm sorry. A lot of that also has to do with what your food is eating. You are what you eat. Your food is what they eat as well. So if your food source, the chicken or the fish, whatever it is eating um, steroids or some sort of feed that has a lot of chemicals or something that is not natural that will make them get larger quicker, um, filled with hormones, that growth hormones that make them grow faster or bigger, so that way they can be slaughtered quicker and go through the process and get into the grocery stores faster, so that way the larger farms can make more money quicker. Um, it ends up being about money, so it's about trying to hurry up and expedite that process. Um, but that means they're also eating something that may not be natural for them. Therefore, those gizzards are bigger. Those chicken wings that shouldn't be that big are huge. They're almost the size of a turkey leg. You know, that's saying something. Um, so it's just, it depends on what your food is eating too, when you're looking at the quality of the meat. So organic, if you notice, organic chickens tend to be a little bit smaller because naturally they're eating more natural foods. They're not eating something that's filled with growth hormones.
Oh, okay. And Nola Reed said, "Hi, Auntie Siki." I just read when people comment. I read it so we'll be one big happy family. So we were talking about that last week, preparing and strategizing. Well, one week I don't remember which week it was, but we were talking about maybe gardening and sharing. Everybody growing something different and sharing it. How can a person start gardening?
Gardening can start as simple as a big flower pot. And if you don't have a big flower pot, if you have one of those 5-gallon buckets from Home Depot, you can start gardening. You can start having a simple tomato plant and learn about that plant and learn about how the dirt is affecting the growth of the plant and the level of how much water it should have and things of that sort. It really just starts with trying and making the efforts. It's going to not work sometimes, but in those moments where it doesn't work, you learn so much and there's so much more growth as well. I cannot tell you how many times I've had failed gardens, started over again, and then those gardens from the failed gardens, because of what I learned, have flourished. I've learned so much from composting alone and learning how important it is to have those composted materials, keeping my eggshells from my eggs, keeping taking those clippings and cuttings from make cutting my onions and keeping all of my cuttings and putting them in a compost bucket and mixing it together and then adding it to my garden soil and letting it decompose. That allows the worms to come in. That allows that thick black soil that you want to have in order to be able to truly nourish your garden. It's filled with nitrates. It's wonderful.
When I was younger, my mom used to take her coffee ground and put it on her plants.
Coffee
So
grounds
what
are wonderful.
so what does that helps your dirt get black? So we want black dirt, right?
You want a nice thick dark soil. Georgia clay, the reason it's so red and fine, it's mostly sand. It's showing you that it's mostly sand when you look at it. That thick, black, nutritious soil means that it's got a lot of different nutrients from a lot of different sources. Though you've had all of your bugs that are important to that ecosystem of the dirt as well, been able to crawl through and provide you more nutrients through their own processes. So yeah, that dark black soil is really what you would like to have when you're looking into having a garden. So composting is amazing to make that on your own, and you already know what's going into your soil. So you know that you're not getting extra fillers and chemicals from a big bag of potted soil. You don't have to question anything. You know exactly what's going in there, and you're also helping the environment because you're recycling on your own by putting whatever is compostable and can be decomposed naturally and okay for the environment back into the soil where it needs to go.
So wait a minute. Now, so potted soil, like when you go buy, it's two kinds of soil you can buy. So the potted soil is not good.
Not necessarily. There are some wonderful brands of potting soil, but some brands of potting soil may have some extra ingredients to kind of like when we feed our chickens those growth hormones. They may have some extra chemicals in there to help expedite and rush the process of the growth and grow it a little bit faster. But what are those chemicals doing in the and I always wonder what those chemicals exactly are doing in the to the plant itself, and then when I'm ingesting the plant, what is that doing to my body? I am not able to say exactly what it is, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. I want to know where my food comes from. I want to know from beginning to end if I absolutely can. If I can't grow it, I will go out and find someone who can and learn from them. And if they have it, I'll find a way to barter with my eggs or anything that I may have.
And what are some of the easier foods to grow? I like eggplant, but what um what are some of the, like for starter? What are some of the easier foods to grow?
Starter crops, I would always suggest tomatoes. That's some of the easiest crops to grow. You see, everybody's grandma grows tomatoes, cucumbers, those basic crops. But surprisingly enough, I've always had a pretty easy time growing collard greens. Turnips haven't always been my forte, but collards have actually especially in Georgia, they have been able to grow pretty well in the soil, even if it tends to be a little sandier than I would like. So
So
yeah, tomatoes, cucumbers, and collards. There we go. But yeah, collards, tomatoes, and cucumbers have been amazing and pretty easy for me to grow. And if you're looking to grow fruits, um, watermelons are a nice starter crop. I have had a little bit easier time with cantaloupes.
oh, that's really good because I like fruit. I love watermelon. And then when I remember, when we were younger, telling my age, but we when we were younger and we bought fruit and greens, it tastes watermelon had its own taste. Like
Yeah.
it was so good. And when I went to the country and they killed the chicken for us to eat. And then I was with a friend and we went to her family home. And they grew the vegetables. The lettuce was like it had substance, you know.
Mhm.
And then when we were younger, we would go to the wharf in Saint Bernard, Araby sometimes. Then after I grew up, I would go to what we call over the river, and buy shrimp and seafood off the river. Until today, I still want my shrimp. I have to peel with the heads on it, but it would be so good to get some of that again. So let's shift just a little bit and talk about the importance of the nutrition and the importance of eating the healthy food and how it's important to our mind and our souls, really.
Well, I always say food is fuel. Our bodies are a well built machine, wonderfully designed, and every machine needs fuel. And our machine, our bodies, require certain vitamins, nutrients, minerals, um, fats, proteins, carbohydrates. They all have a piece of the puzzle that helps fuel our body and take care of those bodily systems that we have, from our nervous system all the way down to our digestive system, that help make our machines function at the highest functionality, or the best of its ability. It's like having a car. You could put the cheapest version of oil in there when you get an oil change, and it would be okay. But if you put the best type of oil, the best, highest quality of oil, it's going to run a little bit better. It's going to keep that engine going. Our heart's like our engine. That blood we want to keep flowing. We want healthy blood flowing through it, so that way it can keep that engine going and flowing and pumping through our body. So the importance of having a balanced diet, a nutritious diet, because you can eat Cheetos all day, but there's little to no nutrition in there. So your body won't have all of the balance of the proteins and the vitamins that your body requires to function. B12 is so important to our mental health. So having a balanced diet in which we eat our fruits and vegetables to where our bodies can pull the nutrients from it and put it where it needs to go in our bodies to allow our mind to function right, to allow our hearts to function right, to allow our respiratory system to continue to breathe and remain clean. It's so important. It's all about balance. It's never one or the other. It's in that gray area. It's keeping that balance of your diet. And surprisingly enough, portion control is really important with that balance. So I always teach with your plate, it's about eating with your portions. Half your plate is vegetables, no matter how big or small your plate. Half your plate is vegetables and fruit. Quarter of your plate is protein, and a quarter to a little less than a quarter is carbs at minimal. And then, having a smaller side of your dairy and things of that sort is always good for us, especially as females, because we are prone to osteoporosis. So having that some sort of calcium supplement is very good and important.
She said, Secret says, what do you think about seedless watermelon or seedless fruit?
Whew. I always try to eat fruit that has seeds. And the reason being is that seeds are part of showing that a fruit has gone through its entire process and it is fertile and it is it's what it should be. It's healthy. It's a healthy fruit. So that way I know it has all of its nutrition. It's gone through its full cycle and it is something that I know at its full natural life cycle it has experienced its full natural life cycle. Therefore, it's a sign for me that it is holistic enough in which it will not do as much damage to my body or it won't do any damage to my body. It'll make sure that it's providing the nutrients I need. It's the fuel I need. When it's seedless, I don't know what process it's gone through when it's seedless, or if maybe it's a sign that that fruit isn't as nutritious as possible, or it's been maybe sick and it didn't get to go through its full process. So there's something going on. It's a sign that maybe something happened, and so I try to veer away from seedless if at all possible, because I don't know what happened to the fruit, so to speak.
Thank you for that. So I heard you say that B12 is very important to our diet. What type of foods have B12?
A significant amount of foods have B12. Actually, I typed up a list. Hold on one moment. Um, animal animal based foods. If you do eat protein, well, if you have more of an omnivorous diet, a lot of your meats will have B12 because those animals eat different types of plants and things of that sort. So you can actually get B12 from your meats. You can get B12 from your chicken, you can get B12 from lamb, you can get B12 from beef, any sort of meats that you have, even your fish, you can get B12 from. If you're looking at your more plant based diets, that's when you are looking at a lot of grains, even your greens will have some plant based, some B12 as well. Dairy products, again, that's more of the meat, but if you're in a vegetarian diet where you do eat dairy or cheese, you can still get some B12 within your dairy and cheese, or even your eggs will have a lot of B12 as well. I think eggs are two large eggs is almost about 46% of your B12, if I recall correctly. I'd have to check again, but eggs are surprisingly nutritious for your diet. I mean, and one egg alone is 6 grams of protein, and that's a lot for the human body to be able to absorb quickly and in a small amount where it's not too filling, but it's nutritious.
So I have two other comments. Nola Reeds would like to know what are some fruit we could try from the norm that's different, I guess, from the normal ones that we usually eat. Because a lot of the normal stuff, I don't know if she's asking, but for me, if you go to buy your grapes, we always had when I had my baby in the house, I kept grapes in the refrigerator because she used to just go in there and eat them. So that's a good question. What are some fruit that we can substitute that?
So what I would always suggest is find a local market. Find a local farmers market where it seems small, and you've got the egg cartons and crates, and it may look a little rustic. Those are probably the ones where you're going to get the most closest to all natural and organic foods as possible. Um, but definitely find your nearest farmers market if you at all possibly can, and look for fruits that are in season. Research your regions. For instance, Georgia is actually a growing region. I believe it's growing region 3. And so research your regions that you are in, the growing regions, and see what season you're in, because every fruit, every vegetable has its own season. For instance, if you're in September and October, look for muscadines in Georgia. That is a natural grape. It is a grape that happens in Georgia and grows so well in Georgia. Your muscadines, your succanines, and they have seeds, and they're so nutritious for you, and they're native to Georgia. So you already know you're getting something seasonally. But I would just say, research what's seasonal, and Google's your best friend, and go from there. If you know it's not the season for it, I wouldn't recommend buying it. Maybe just wait until the next season comes up. It gives you something to look forward to. I do remember being younger and being able to look forward to apple season and grape season, and looking forward to the spring when I would strawberries. Those seasons were great because you knew the strawberries were luscious and very juicy and sweet, versus if you were picking a strawberry later in the season, or you taste a strawberry from the grocery store in the wintertime and it just kind of tastes blah and bland. Go by the seasons, and if it's not the season, find something that is in season and try it. So apples are great also in the fall. Strawberries, blueberries, your berries are going to be in spring and early summer. And then, yeah, in the fall time, look for your larger fruits, your apples, your pears, your grapes, things like that.
So, and Nola Reese have another question, and she said, "What nutrients can we get from seafood?"
Seafood, you get a lot of omegas, which are important for your brain health
Repeat
and
that.
function.
I'm sorry. Can you
Oh,
repeat that,
pardon me.
please? It
So
jumped. It wasn't you.
seafood, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Lovely. Seafood, actually, you're going to get a lot of your omegas. If you've also heard, your fish oils are really good for your body, especially your joints. For us people who have some creaky joints, maybe a little arthritis, sometimes it helps give a little bit of movement and oil in our bodies. So fish oils in general are really good for us, and it'll give us some healthy fats for our body to be able to continue to run and convert into energy.
And one another thing, like I go off. I have friends that's. What did that answer your questions? If that answered your questions, we're good. But if you have more questions, I want you to ask them because we're doing good and we're learning a lot. Okay. So I have a friend who thinks it's the end of the world. Okay. And so, but what she's doing is really good because now that we're talking about seasons, I'm a big fig eater, but I can't find fig like they taste when we went go pick them off the neighbor's fig tree.
It's because
And
they're
when the
not in
neighbor,
season.
my aunt's neighbor had a peach tree, and my dad, boy, we used to sit in the yard and eat peaches, and my daddy would make peach ice cream that was so good. And you go back and you try to find it, you try to recapture that taste, but it's not
Mhm.
there. But I don't know how much I can grow. I want to pay somebody to go in on their garden. But I'm gonna try two things because I have two pots. So I'm gonna try that. But I wanna say because she was talking about I'm learning how to can. So she's learning how to like preserve her food that she grow so that she could have it even when it's not in season. But she was also talking about preserving meat. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
There's a few different ways to preserve meat. I haven't had as extensive of experience in preserving meat specifically. What I have done and has worked for me with canning my meats, I'll smoke my meat in a barbecue smoker for a while, and then I'll can the meat itself, or I will also steam or cook my fish and can it. And when I say canning, it's not the aluminum cans that you think of that you buy from the grocery store on the shelf. It's actually, those old school mason jars that grandma used to have. Those are the cans that we're talking about. And being able to actually process those cans like you would when, I don't know if you've ever experienced walking to a house and it's filled with, like, the counter's filled with jam and jelly jars, because it's canning season and everyone's made their jams and jellies from picking those seasonal fruits. Uh, but those boiling the mason jars and then allowing them to cool and allowing the natural suction to occur, so that will actually extend your shelf life and preserve your food in time. But with meats, there's also the option of having smoke houses, which almost everybody used to have down south. I know my grandma, great granddaddy, all of them used to have a smokehouse in their backyard, and they would put their meats in the smokehouse and smoke the meats, and basically it would dry your meats, and they would salt them down because the salt is a preservative and it stops that bacterial growth. Um, and they would smoke the meats, dry them, salt them, and keep everything nice and safe to eat for as long as possible, trying to extend that shelf life because not everybody had a fridge. You know what I mean? So it would be able to keep that. Another thing is with your eggs. Even you could preserve your eggs in mason jars with a special type of lime and mixture of water, and you pour the lime and water mixture into the jar with the eggs, and that'll actually extend your shelf life of the eggs as well throughout the winter because chickens don't lay through the winter.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. So if I like prime rib, what would we season the meat with to smoke it? And so then I'm gonna need to slice it in order for it to fit in the jar, right?
Well, it depends. You would have to usually slice the meat. What I tend to do is I go to my local butcher who does source his meats and all of his cuts from local farmers to support um, other farmers and small farms. And we also know exactly where the meat is coming from, how it's being fed, and whatever cuts that he has available at that time. I'll purchase in bulk, and then I will smoke those meats and cut them down. And I actually have a hand grinder that, the old farm table grinders that you secure to the table and you grind the meat. So if I want ground meat, I'll grind it down. And since I do have a deep freezer, I'll put it in the freezer, usually my ground meats. But you could also smoke those and put them in a can if you absolutely want to. If not, you can just smoke a whole piece of, a Boston butt and shred it. That's what I usually do is I'll shred it and then put it in the jar, and I'll just have access to the shredded meat.
Okay, and do you need a special seasoning to prepare it? To
Not necessarily. If you're canning them
Mhm,
specifically,
mhm.
you don't need a special seasoning. But when you're smoking the meat in a smokehouse, that's a little bit different. Um, that itself it's not so much the seasoning, but it is the process, and that is a salt. And some people salt them, but when you're doing it properly, you can store smoked meats almost for up to a year when they're properly preserved and dry. So it just it depends on the methods that you're using. If you're using like a low and slow, low temperature to just keep those meats, it's called a cold smoke. Uh, so it just depends on what your methods are. There's a lot of different methods for smoking meats and preserving them. But if you're just going to can it, it doesn't matter the seasoning. You can. I've had. I've made teriyaki chicken and barbecue pork and different stuff like that, and preserved them in mason jar canning methods.
And so I know this may sound redundant. I'm so sorry, but we're
Oh
big
no,
seafood eaters. So so if we were doing shrimp and but I don't know how would you do crab though?
I've never had that experience. Because I usually try to get my food as fresh as possible. And since we're
Mhm.
inland, I have not had much experience with crab or shrimp, except for when I was a young girl. And that's when I would travel to overseas and be near an ocean or be near a place where we could go to a fresh seafood market, and we would just eat it directly and eat it as fresh as possible because I was always taught that the fish may not last that long, so you have to eat it as fresh the day of, you know.
And that's how it tastes also. You know? When
And
look, going back to that, this is not right.
exactly.
And let me go to with my dad. My dad, um, when he canned fruit, he cooked it, and we had oh he would we would pick pears because pears grew in our area, and we would eat millet. Millet is like a squash.
Hmm.
Um, I think it's South American squash. Call it coyote or something like that. Daddy would pickle. Daddy would pickle the millet and pickle peppers. And
Yum.
I'm sorry.
That sounds yum.
Yeah, and he would, but the fruit he would cook and make like sweet. It was always sweet.
Well, sugar is also a preservative. It helps keep things sweet. That's why a lot of people would make jams and jellies to have some sort of source of fruit for the winter time. Because again, you're cooking them. The sugar helps keep the fruit from spoiling. It's like salt. It slows down the decomposition process, which would stop you from eating it because it would spoil and go bad. um, Cucumbers are soaked in salt and vinegar because that pickling process helps preserve it and keep it as long as possible.
Okay. So if can we get back to our mind? Anybody have any questions? This is really, really good. I'm really enjoying this. I am into this, and I'm going to try some of it. I really am. When they have the strawberry farm, I think I'm going to try it. I'll find somebody with kids to go try to pick some, and I'm gonna do that. You know, like it's really interesting to me. And then we know what we eat because we have no clue. You know, we have no clue of what we eat every day. I'm gonna have to start sitting next to you so I can eat something out of your lunch basket. But I wanna go back before we close. I wanna talk about eating for your mind because I am. You know, when you think about the market, and I used to shop a lot at Publix. Um, but now they don't have all the meat like they used to have. They don't have all the meat like they used to have when you go to Publix. So it's very the choices have become limited, and the meat does not look at you used to go and say I know I can get me a good piece of meat at Publix, but the meat does not look like fresh meat that I know, and I know fresh meat because Daddy always bought our meat from the butcher. You know, we went to the meat market and they had this place called Steve's on Claiborne where Daddy used to go pick the chicken. That was when he had stopped raising chickens, and they would pop that neck, and we would have fresh chicken. So I know fresh meat. So
Yeah.
when I look at the meat in the store, I'm thinking, oh, where did they store this meat? Because it doesn't look fresh. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
So I want to know, do you feel like there's any connection in the growth of the acuity of mental illness that's happening today in the food that we eat?
That I wouldn't. I will say I will not be surprised if there is. But I will say that I do believe that uh, because as a country, we have not taught our youth like in other countries about the importance of eating healthy foods and natural foods and what's in your foods, the importance of that from tiny little ones. Because if you look in other countries, they instill that importance of mindful eating, being aware of what you put into your body, and understanding the importance of what you put into your body. And it needs to be as natural as possible because your body is important and it needs to have that source of nutrition. We haven't educated our kids from that small age, and we're about instant gratification. So grab and go because we're always on the go. We don't pause to take that time. So I do think it does have. I would not be surprised if those statistics are affected, but I do think there's a lack of education about the importance of mindful eating, which could genuinely be one of those effects of how our mental health is also affected because we're not educated enough on how to take care of ourselves in the simplest of ways, which is feeding ourselves.
So I don't know if you can, but if you can, could you tell us some foods that we could eat for our minds and our memories?
Okay. Well, protein. Your mind is a muscle. Proteins are always wonderful. Eggs, egg yolks actually have, I believe it's choline, it's called, which is it helps produce, it helps with your brain function and reduce inflammation. But vegetables, eat your veggies. Spinach, broccoli, kale, all of your greens are wonderful for you. And there's a lot of different types of mushrooms, different fungi that are wonderful for your brain, from lion's mane to shiitake, uh, um, shagi. I believe it's chagi. No, there's plenty of other mushrooms that you have. There are options to really produce more. Just assist with like reducing inflammation in your brain and assisting with sharpening your memory, things of that sort.
Okay, I just want to thank you for being here. I have really, really enjoyed this. So it's not just important to say I'm eating fruit and vegetables. I need it to be as fresh grown as possible.
As natural as possible because our bodies are natural as well. So we want to keep it as natural as possible, as homegrown as we can, just as we are, you know?
Yeah. And you know what I used to tell my patients all the time, especially when I was working med surge. Look, you have to eat well because God has created everything your body needs to heal, everything your body needs to exist. So illness is your body's missing something or it's taking on something that it shouldn't have. So you have to find what it needs to replace it.
Hmm.
This has been so excellent to me. So, what would you like to leave us with? Because this was really good. I really enjoyed this. I thank you for this. This was, it's making my heart go back to thinking, okay, where are you? how in the world you got back to some things I went back to, you know? So, what is it that you can leave us with?
It's you're worth taking the time to pause and think about what you're putting into your body and just take the chance and grow something. If you don't do it the first time, you're going to learn something that time, and it's worth it. It's worth the possibility of it not working, but you're learning something and there's growth in not succeeding as well. So take the chance, try it out, and don't stop. Just keep learning, keep growing.
Thank you. Sigrid says she enjoyed this very much, and so did I. It has me thinking I need to get down to DeKalb Farmers Market because I'm going to be off Friday and buy some food that because you know like recently it's like I have to work hard to remember the words that I want to speak, and sometimes and you know I want to eat for my mind. I think that's what I'm going to research the most, thinking for my mind. I never thought about that, you know, eating for my thinking. You know, I just
Yeah,
never thought about that. Sigrid says she enjoyed this session very much. And
lovely.
and I'm so glad too. I'm so glad you're here. So if someone um, maybe wanted to try and got stuck, would you like to leave any information where they can ask you questions or grow from this?
Sure, absolutely. You can email me at hippie, Hippie, healthy and fit at gmail.com. So hippie, healthy and fit at gmail.com. I'm just a hobby homesteader, a humble lady who makes mistakes, learns from them, and continues to grow. So I will gladly help share any information that I have or any experiences that I've had. And anything you can share with me, I would love to learn from you too.
Thank you so much for being here. I've enjoyed this. I'm gonna turn over a new leaf, but it can't be till Friday. I'm gonna keep different things in my home and do things differently. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I hope you have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.